Hi, Lewis. How are you?
Hey Rohan, how you doing, man? Is it
Doing
Rohan?
well. Yeah, Rohan.
Rohan,
Perfect.
good.
Awesome. Thank you. I love the movie, man. Top Gun is the movie of the year. So I
Thank-
had to get started with like the most important question. Since your dad was also in one of like these in Independence Day, one of the greatest Fourth of July movies, have you had that discussion of what's the new ultimate Fourth of July movie?
Oh, wait, like which one beats which movie
Yeah, yeah.
beats?
With Top Gun or Independence Day, have you had that conversation yet?
We haven't. We're not competitive in nature. So we're just glad that there's space for both films to exist and flourish. I think he has warned me, or not warned me, but been like movies like these that have such a strong imprint on society. He's like, I go everywhere and and everyone's like, can you give me the speech? Give me the Independence Day speech, please, just a piece of it. And he was like, so you're going to get some version of that. And I think now my new version of that is like, people want to know what Bob stands for.
Gotcha. And so like speaking of Bob, like it's a call sign that like stands unique. Like that's the one call sign. If you leave the movie, you're like outside of Maverick, you're like Bob, Bob, Bob. So like, did you have what kind of conversation did you have with Chris McQuarrie and Joe Kosinski when you were like when you were auditioning for this character?
I mean, I just went and did the audition and did it what I thought Bob might be, or just my version of Bob. And then we started having more conversations after that. And I think Tom and McHugh and Joe's main notes on Bob was like, he is kind of soft spoken when he's got his feet on the ground, but when he's up in the sky, that's where he really flourishes, and that's where he can kick ass up there. And so that finding that contrast of like, just because you don't have to be boisterous or cocky in order to really take control and be really good at your job. And I love that. I love being able to represent that, because I think, getting to meet a lot of these Top Gun pilots, they come in all variations. They're all incredibly, some of the funniest people I know I've ever gotten to meet. They have some of the best stories. And a lot of them are incredibly modest, they're not, like peacocks walking around. There is that in every realm, and that's a great thing, and that's a cool, badass thing to see. But also to be able to represent the other side of things, where there are that modesty and that kind of like not needing to prove that he's a badass all the time, and just like in his work and in his actions, like prove that.
Yeah, absolutely. And so like you guys, like the six, I think the six or eight of you near the end, you guys have like this very unique shared experience where you're sitting on this buried treasure of a movie, Top Gun Maverick, for I think 3, 4 years before it came out this year. And so like what's that like shared experience like with you and with Miles and Glenn and Monica and Danny and everyone? Like what was that just like and Jay and everybody? Like what's just that whole shared experience been like for you people as you're now that the movie's out and now that you get to like just enjoy its success.
Yeah, it's been a long run. I think of a lot of like false horizons, of getting really excited about it and then realizing that it's not the time. And so I think we all kind of just garnered this patience and this like trust that Tom and Joe were going to release, and Jerry were going to release it when it was the right time, and they know best. And so at first it was like a little disappointing, and then it was like I could have waited another couple of years, because I was like, I know we're sitting on, as you said, like, yeah, this little gold mine. And so it would be a shame and a disservice to release it in a way that didn't best do it justice. And so after seeing the movie in a theater, I was like, oh, this cannot come out on streaming. Like, this is see why they're waiting. I see why they're just like sitting in the bushes waiting for the right moment to pounce. And it was really smart how they did it. But it was kind of like we were all in it together, and we were all like, it will come out and it'll be great when it does. And in some ways it was kind of good for me, because it was like there's enough like mystery and kind of mythology around the film that it was helpful for me in my career enough, just having been a part of something that people were excited about. And so I also, you do kind of go through moments where you're like, well, maybe I'm just a fan of it because I love all the people involved and I love the experience, and who knows, maybe it won't be such a connect. But when it came out, and it was just like a complete, it was like hitting a bullet with a bullet. That's what Tom was always saying. It's like this movie, if we do it right, it'll be like hitting a bullet with a bullet. The amount of precision that we have to have and care and take in all these variables into account, the wind, the weight of the bullet, all these things, like as long as we take them all into account and we apply them like this, we will succeed. And he was damn right. And that's why you don't question Tom Cruise when he has a vision for something,
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's one of the greatest theater going experiences I've had in a long time. And so like you do get like this chance to work like very intimately with Tom Cruise, a legend of all, an all-time legend who is,
Yeah.
essentially a real life maverick. So like just at this stage of your career, it's like what are you like just sort of like learning from him, sort of just like trying to sort of just understand like why he is where he is, and it's like what can I take away from that as I go into the next phase of my career?
Yeah. One thing I learned about him was, from a very early age in his career, he took it upon himself to self-educate in all facets of filmmaking, every part of the process. So he would spend, months in the editing room of movies that he had worked on, or, days like shadowing, sound guys, so he knows a lot about every single department. And he did that so that he can expedite certain conversations and understand how to help others help himself, so that makes it makes for a very fluid collaborative experience, so that there's no you have a common language, and that kind of like gets you over that hump of like trying to learn the basics of what somebody's trying to explain to you, so that you can know what to do best and help them. And so that is pretty incredible to see how that works. He can hop from every lily pad of production and communicate really soundly. And on top of that, he doesn't like wasting time. He's like, we all are here to make the best movie possible, and so how can we like cut out the fat of certain parts of this process that can feel like maybe they're necessary, but they only feel that way because we've been doing it that way for so long. So he kind of like is always questioning whether there's a newer, faster, better, more succinct way to do something. He's just always developing and growing. He's not complacent in his career. He's like trying to make his next movie better and more exciting and more entertaining and more dynamic than the last. And that's really inspiring to see, because he could just sit on his laurels and be like, I've kicked ass in every movie I've ever done and I don't have anything left to prove. But he's only picking up steam.
Yeah, absolutely. And so like moving on to like like you guys got up in the fighter jets, and we've seen like the behind the scenes footage, which is incredible stuff. And so like acting and flying are very different skill sets. So like what was that sort of just getting acclimated to? I have to have these sort of reactions when I'm like up in the air versus where it's like, oh shit, I'm up in the air. So it's like yeah, what was that just whole experience like?
Yeah, it was a very insular experience, because there's no monitors up there. When we go up there, there's no like feed that's going to the monitor and Joe is watching it and can give us notes. He can't walk in, try it more like this. So you're kind of up on your own there. But Joe would put us through these rehearsals beforehand, and Tom, where we are like basically in a room full of all the department heads and doing a briefing before each flight. And we would have to really rigorously rehearse what we're going to do and do it as if exactly how we think we're going to do it, so that then they could give us the notes down there. And but yeah, there's stuff where like on a more technical level, like your face is how you're communicating whatever your character is going through, and your face is completely deformed when you're going under so many G's. You look like you're aging like 20 years in 2 seconds. And so to figure out how to, like, first of all, that's part of what makes the movie cool, is when you're watching those flight sequences, you're like, wow, that's not CGI. Their face is actually being pulled. Their skin is being pulled off of their skull. They're pulling so many G's. And so not to like lean into that, but then also there was a certain point where Tom was like, I need to see more straining. Like I've now trained you guys so well that you guys have to like lean into it, let the G's hit you a little more so that that it's communicating. Otherwise it's like, why are we doing this? And so there was a part where we were kind of like, we were learning on the go because it hadn't really been done before. So we were like, okay, we have to like really let it, or like go overly aggressive when we're doing our G maneuvers or our hit maneuvers. And then even things like, the weapon systems officer, me and Danny's role, Danny Ramirez, were the weapon systems officer, which is like, there's actually a lot of pivoting in there. And like, you put your hand up on the canopy and you twist, and it's kind of like, because you're trying to, look behind you. And so you're really fighting the G's in a different kind of way. But Tom was like, I need you guys to fill up the frame more so that these frames aren't as stagnant, it's more dynamic. So like really put your hands up there and a lot of movement. So it's like this frenetic experience. And so those are things where it's like, I can't really apply those lessons to any other circumstances. In some ways, they're very specific to this environment, to this, what was asked of us. But it was a learning experience and a half.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Lewis. This has been great. I love the movie, and congratulations on all its success.
Thank you so much, Rohan. Really appreciate it, man.
Nice. Awesome. Thank you for your time.
Have a good one.
You too.